welcome to a quick chat with Peter, Nelson and Kerry Boffey. So we've just been delivering a webinar, and following on from that webinar, we've been delivering it with Aptem, looking at the colleges and the inspections. But it really does raise some questions when you look at the data and some of the analysis that Finn has been producing. Peter, what are your thoughts on where the inspection grades are coming out at the moment?
So today it's the 2nd of July. We are basing this on the first 15 FE college reports that have been published, GFE college reports. So to date, 15 reports have been published. And if you look at the grade profile that have been awarded across those FE colleges, 195 grades have been awarded, because obviously the bigger organizations have 15 or 16 grades awarded. But if you look at the breakdown, 8% of the grades that have been awarded across those 195 grades have been strong, 71% have been expected, and a staggering 21% of grades awarded to FE colleges have been needs attention. So 1 in 5 grades in the FE sector so far are needs attention. It's good to see that there's no urgent improvement grades that have been awarded in FE colleges. It's really disappointing to see, in my opinion, that no exceptional grades have been awarded. Now, it is only a small sample. I understand that. It's 15 colleges. But even so, of 195 grades awarded, not a single example of exceptional. And I think that really goes to illustrate just how high the bar is, and just how challenging it is for broadly large, complex organizations to get the best grades.
And do you think that's the key there, Peter? It's the complexity that is adding, because you've got the complexity from the point of view of the providers themselves, their audience, what they're doing, how they're meeting those needs, and the varying range of individuals that they deal with. But also, you've got the secure fit model, which is really crippling, because that secure fit model means that every single criteria has to be met.
I think there's 2 or 3 things that kind of come to mind, and I'm going to be curious to see how things change over time. First of all, Jonathan Childs spoke at the AELP conference a couple of weeks ago, and basically was challenged, I think, as I understand it, on why so few exceptional grades were being awarded. So I have a sneaking suspicion that over the next few months, we may see bit more of an emphasis on awarding some of those grades. I mean, ballpark figure, you'd expect across the sector, I don't know, 2 to 5% of grades, something in that region, to be exceptional. There must be examples, plenty of examples of exceptional progress. And if we're not recognizing the exceptional, we're missing a trick, in my opinion, to try and share best practice.
Yeah, well, I'm really pleased to say that that at the conference that was raised based on an article that I wrote for FE Week,
Yes.
which the publisher, bless him, picked up on and said, actually, this is a really good question. Why aren't more providers getting exceptional? And that's something that at Finn we would like to challenge and say, if a provider has got strong across the board, surely, and that's a really high bar of consistency, of really high quality, to meet that secure standard of strong across the board is quite phenomenal. Shouldn't the inspectors then be challenged to then say, hang on a second, isn't there something exceptional here? Should we look a bit harder to see what is exceptional, rather than it necessarily be evidenced by the provider? And sometimes it's about looking for good. We can all find the rot, it floats to the top, but actually you have to dig for gold. And I just wonder, when it comes to exceptional, whether they're digging hard enough. But I think it's a very good point about colleges. Maybe there's some real gems in those colleges, but the overwhelming, what's coming out is the is the complexity is overriding some of the little gems that are there.
I think the other thing, as soon as we've got a representative sample of sixth form colleges that have been inspected, or 16 to 19 academies, I think it'll be interesting to see whether or not they are at an advantage, given their focus, given their narrower curriculum on the whole, and to see whether they tend to do better.
I'm going to do a prediction. I'm going to say, yes, I think they will. Historically, they did very well under the previous framework, and I'm fairly confident they're going to do very well again under this framework. Even though it's got a bigger emphasis on inclusion, I'm fairly confident that they will be doing well.
But just coming back to those 15 reports that have been published for GFE colleges, you'd probably think that inclusion was something that most GFE colleges would say that they're strong at, because that's what they're all about. It's about inclusion, and it's about meeting the skills needs of the local and regional community. Of those 15 colleges inspected, only 2 have got strong for inclusion. And I think from memory, about 4 have got strong for meeting skills needs. So actually that's quite encouraging, but disappointing on the inclusion front, because colleges do so much to be socially inclusive. And I do question really whether that or not that's being recognised sufficiently through that grade profile. Now, I appreciate the fact it is a small sample, and I'm sure things will change over time. And I hope they do. I hope they do.
And that inclusion grade could be down to element of that secure fit model, but also maybe the colleges aren't putting forward their evidence in such a way that it meets the criteria. So it's worth those colleges really looking at how they are presenting their inclusion information, data and evidence to really show that distance travel, because you're absolutely right. If there's one thing I do know about colleges, that is what they're particularly good at, that really inclusion focus of meeting the needs of that community that they're based.
Actually, at that event we were at just a few minutes ago, someone asked a question, well, how do you identify inclusion best practice? And I think it's very tricky. It helps a little bit if you go and dig out a few reports that have got strong for inclusion and read those reports, but I don't think that gives you much insight into what organisations are doing that are getting strong. It gives you a bit of insight. I think it's really important actually that there are discussions across the sector and with national organisations like AOC to say, so what is the expectation here? What do you think strong looks like when it comes to social inclusion?
Members of Fin have been coming on a regular basis every 2 months to an inclusion working group, and that's been really, really interesting to hear what people are doing, some of the initiatives they're taking, how it's having an impact, how they're evidencing it. So if you want to know more about inclusion, Fin membership and joining some of the Fin working groups is definitely the way to go. Thank you very much for your time this morning, Peter. That's been really interesting, and it's good to have a chat with you. So thank you very much. I hope you found our chat very interesting. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.